gather round, get in close, grab a loved one because it is Valentine's Day, or at least pretty darn close. Welcome to TV, guys. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian. Does that mean
And
you're giving me a deadline to get this done by Valentine's Day?
I am giving you've got a week and a half. You're gonna be okay.
Right, Mr. Wizard. I don't know why I called you Mr. Wizard.
I don't get it. Well, I mean, we are okay. So before I get ahead of myself, I was getting ready to segue in, and we've got introductions still to continue on. So I won't segue into it yet. We're talking about some of our favorite TV couples. Some couples that maybe they're not our favorite, but we like to talk about them, and some of them that I put on my list because it's like they're important. You know, you talk about the most famous TV couples. There's a couple of them you just have to talk about. So we'll bring them up even if we've probably already mentioned some of these couples. It might not take a long time with some of them that we've talked about at length before.
Yeah. One thing I'm not going to bring up, I don't know if you are, I'm not going to bring up any big love triangles because I'm not a huge fan of like ongoing love triangles. It's annoying to me.
I don't think any of my picks have a triangle apart from maybe a little bit of a will they won't they. No, I don't have any of them that are that way. They're all pretty established. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are some like detours, which I think are different than love triangles, where if it's
Absolutely.
like, you know that this couple is going to be together and then they break up and they date other people, like that's not a love triangle. That's just, it's like Jim and Karen.
Yep.
It's, you weren't expecting it to last, but like, dude, you really have to go through 6 seasons of Jack, Kate, and Sawyer. Like, I love Lost, but I didn't love the love triangle.
So, do you have any couples from Lost on your list?
I do not. I could have, and if you want to bring some up, I'm happy to talk about them, but I don't have any on my list.
So I didn't have any to start off with, but I want to get your opinion because there's so many different couples in Lost, and if you're going to make like a top 50 TV couples, you're at some point you're going to get these aren't really that iconic, but we need to find some to fill the list.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the most romantic couple from Lost?
For me, I think I would say either Desmond and Penny or Charlie and Claire.
Okay. I can't argue with either of those choices. My pick would probably actually be Jin and Sun, especially where they started with. The relationship they had right away in season 1 versus where they ended. Great character arcs for them. I really was invested. But then the writers kind of sucked because they realized, like, since they're married, there wasn't a whole lot that they can go. So, like, let's just keep them apart. Let's keep them apart for 3 seasons. It's like, you guys suck, all right?
Yeah, they kept doing that. Like, first he left on the raft, and then he thought he was exploded. And of course, when Sun came back, Jin happened to be the only one that wasn't there. And it's like, really?
It's like, he's on the other side of the... You guys passed each other as you're walking. You're finally in the same time zone, and you just... Come on. So
Desmond and Penny less time to get together, and they weren't even on the same continent.
That's true. That's true. And that's why there are no couples from Lost on my list. So they're more concerned about, let's ask questions that we're not going to answer for a long time.
Yeah. Hurley and Libby may have been a good one if they didn't kill her right away.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, I wonder why because I know that both, what was it? I think both her and Michelle Rodriguez, in the time of the filming of season 2, both of them got DUIs. I don't know if you remember anything. Was that related to why they both died?
I've heard that. I've also heard that originally they were only going to kill Ana Lucia, but they didn't think that her death would be as sympathetic to fans because she was kind of an annoying character, so they had to kill Libby as well. Either one of those.
I've heard that too. Yeah, you say that, but I have to say that was a great moment. We could easily do a top 5, because I think I texted you one time. I was like, what are your top 5 Lost moments? And you're like, well, hold on for a second. I can't answer that out of the blue. But you gave me top 5 Lost moments, and definitely that Michael shooting them was a top 5er for me.
Oh, definitely. I think that moment is like why he doesn't get to be at the church at the end.
Oh, yeah, that is true. He doesn't. It's like his character in his first season versus any other season. Very different. He had a weird arc. All right, hit me with a couple.
All right. One of them I want to start with is a good opposites attract couple, and it's a show we haven't brought up a ton, which is Eleanor and Chidi from The Good Place. And this is interesting because the show at first wasn't even really about their romantic relationship. For at first, I was kind of wondering, are they gonna be a couple, or is this just
Mhm.
the character? Because she goes to the afterlife and she realizes that she has accidentally gotten herself into the good place, which is like heaven, and her soulmate is supposed to be this guy Chidi, and Chidi is this very ethics guy, and so it turns out to where he's just trying to coach her and teach her ethics, try to teach her how to belong there, and it becomes complete opposites attract, because he's all about academics and studying ethics, and she's all about the opposite of that. And it's just seeing how like that connection grew over 4 years, to where she's like devastated when he's gonna leave at the end. I don't know, it's a really well done connection with them.
Yeah, I actually even like a similar type in that episode in that show, Jason and Janet.
That's
Like
also on my list. Yeah,
they're also an opposites attract sort of couple, and it was just really well written for them to give each to have that arcs that they have, to the point where in the finale, like the moment that they had was even better, of Jason waiting for Janet. I thought that was so endearing, and like, oh, he actually got to stop and he got to meditate and he got to be the monk for that amount of time
yeah,
that he pretended he was when he first got there.
yeah. Everyone in that cast brings something different, but the humor, I think, is rests on Jason's shoulders for sure. Everyone has their moments, but Jason is the best.
He's got some tremendous. I like Ted Danson. He's probably my favorite character in that, but Jason has got some great lines. And one of his all-time best lines was that, whenever I have a problem, I just get a Molotov cocktail, and then boom, I have a new problem.
Well, best one, and it started out as a super old cheesy joke, but then he saved it at the end. He's like, claustrophobia? Who would be as scared of Santa Claus? And he's like, oh, the Jewish. Like,
Oh, that's great. That is a good show. It's pretty funny.
I cannot recommend The Good Place highly enough. I think it's still on Netflix. I hope it's still on Netflix. That's how I
think you're
watched
right.
it.
I
But
think you're right.
if it is and you haven't seen it, that should be your next watch.
So if we're going to stick it with this opposites attract heading, I'm going to jump into Futurama and talk about Fry and Leela. I actually really like some of the heart moments that they have with these two characters. And it's the same sort of thing where it's like, they have their detours. Fry and Amy have a thing for a couple episodes.
Oh, that was weird, yeah.
Leela's with Zap Brannigan at one point, then she's with this other,
Yeah.
But the whole general feel, because this isn't like a show that you have to watch, like, every episode depends on the episode before that, like, for instance, Lost or Good Place or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very episodic. And so, you can jump in and out of the relationship at any point. But overall, the relationship is Fry reaching for Leela, that she's on she's on this higher plane than him, and he's like this loser guy, and that, he is in love with her, but because he kind of sucks as a person, he's not like he's not on her level. But throughout the show too, you also see how Leela is a bit of a broken person, and because of feeling alone and not having a family and being like a loner for as much of her life as she was, she doesn't make the best romantic choices either. And like, it's like slowly Fry wins her over because he has such a big heart and his romantic gestures are super sweet, and so it kind of chips away at her. And so it's really endearing to see some of these like really great moments that they have, like the one episode where he convinced her to fall in love with him, but they don't have any memory of how that happened. It's like, I don't know what I did to get you to fall in love with me. And then when they finally come back to where they lost their memories because they had to blow something up and create a black hole so that they could, save the whole universe or something like that, he sees that he had arranged all of these planets somehow to spell out like, I love you, Leela, or something like that.
Yeah.
But she doesn't get to see it. And then she detonates the black hole and the message disappears, and he's just staring at the window like, no. And it's kind of funny, but it's also a little sad. Yeah. And so the whole series has things like that. So I really enjoy their back and forth.
Yeah, finally, in a lot of ways they are opposites, but then they kind of identify with each other because obviously Fry, like, he got frozen and woke up 1,000 years later. So everyone he ever knew is dead. And then
Yeah.
Leela, if we find out later that she does have parents, but she's like a mutant and like kind of alone as herself. So they kind of both identified with feeling alone.
Yeah. I mean, that's where Fry and Bender's relationship comes into handy, is that Bender is alone, but he doesn't like care that he's alone. That's just who he is. He does what he wants and screw anyone else. And so like Fry's kind of attracted to not attracted that way, but he's drawn to this guy as his best friend. But yeah, with him and Leela, the Santa Claus episodes that we talked about, or the Christmas episode we talked about a couple weeks back where we brought up the Christmas episode, it really drove home that connection of they were both alone at the holidays, and they were able to come together and be closer during that time. So
yeah, I got one more opposite attract. Talking about Hyde and Jackie on That 70s Show.
Okay.
So this might be controversial, but I actually thought that Jackie was a much better pair with Hyde than with Kelso, because Jackie and Kelso was basically just like Kelly and Ryan from The Office. Like they're both just immature teenagers, and like it's just a toxic relationship. And it kind of worked, but then there was that pairing with her and Hyde. Like they had to keep a secret like for so long, and he's completely opposite of the kind of a guy that she dated ever before. But their back and forth works. Like he's so like, I don't care, I'm alone, I'm too cool to care about people. But like you see that whether he admits it or not, he cares about Jackie. And Jackie, like, it was at her best when she was with Hyde, I think.
I think they had some of the funniest stuff with Jackie and Kelso, though. Some of those lines where it's where like Donna and Eric are right next to him, and Donna's I'm cold, and Eric offers her his jacket, and then Jackie's like, Kelso, I'm cold. It's like, well, dang, Jackie, I can't control the weather. Just completely oblivious. The joke, the one that Angie and I always laugh at is like when they look into the future of if they were to end up together. And so Jackie's thinking about it, and Jackie comes home after like a long day of working or whatever, and Kelso's in there, and Kelso's like, guess what I got? And Jackie's like, is it another box of puppies? And he goes, it's another box of puppies. It's like, this has happened before, that he just brings home boxes of puppies.
Yeah. Jackie and Kelso may have been a funnier couple, but I feel like Jackie and Hyde are a more rootable couple, and both of them are better than Jackie and Fez, which never should have happened. That was
awful. That was one of those shows that just the final season was garbage. I hated it.
And if you want to see, let's see, Kelso and Hyde and Fez and Red and Kitty, you can watch The Ranch, which they're all on at different times.
Except for now you got Sam Elliott and that glorious mustache of his.
Yeah. It was, okay, be prepared for a lot of swearing in that show, but it was funny. It was a good one.
That's what I heard.
You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't watched it, but people who talked about it have brought that up.
Yeah.
Here's maybe this can be a segue, because this is partially opposites attract, but I don't know what other headings that you have, so you will probably be able to piggyback off of this.
All right.
One of my favorite TV couples that is just, it's such a good couple, not the top one, but it's high up there, is from Scrubs, and that's Turk and Carla.
Oh yeah.
I really loved their relationship. One of the best episodes that really highlights the relationship is actually early on, either in season 1 or season 2, where JD and Elliot are dating, and it's like when they're first dating, because they do the on and off again sort of thing, but this is when they're dating for the first time officially, and this is the episode that makes them realize maybe they're not a good couple, because they kind of are comparing themselves to Turk and Carla, and they look over and they see Turk and Carla. So for instance, one of the moments is they're all bowling together.
I was going to say the bowling, yeah.
Yeah. And so JD and Elliot are together, and, they're kind of fighting a little bit, but then they look over and Carla bowls and she gets a strike, and she's like, I got a strike. And Turk is just so excited for her, and he like jumps up and he's dancing with, and he like picks her up and like swirls her around. And he's there in complete support and like the biggest cheerleader to Carla. Yeah. And it's like such a good relationship, because there was a little bit of that opposites attract, especially in the beginning, where he's like this cocky surgeon and she's like the no nonsense nurse that she's got like this whole department under her wing. She's been working hard. She has great control, and she doesn't need some like guy who's way let into his own self to be her man. She needs like an actual man instead of a boy.
Yeah.
And so it really helps, even though Turk still keeps that boyish goofiness.
Mm-hmm.
It really works in the relationship.
Yeah, one of those. That's one of those couples that shows do a lot of times is they want to have at least one couple that either they get together in the beginning or they're already established at the beginning of the show, and like that's your stable couple that'll never break up, and then other characters can go in and out. I heard one Zach Braff and Donald Faison, who are the actors who play JD and Turk, talking, and Donald Faison was like, "Look, Judy Reyes was beautiful, but you know how many women you got to make out with on that show over 8 years?"
Absolutely, that's really true.
And it's really
all
cool.
The guest stars, they were with him.
Yeah, but it's a good thing that these shows do. They have that established couple. And Turk and Carla, I was never afraid of them breaking up, but they had their ups and downs, and it kind of shows the dangers of comparing yourself to other couples. Because in real life too, you pick any couple, you pick the most lovey-dovey couple, you catch them in the wrong moment, they're not going to seem so lovey-dovey.
Yeah, there was a really good arc that they did with them for a couple episodes after Carla gives birth for the first time with their kid, and she actually goes through postpartum depression. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool to see a show, even a goofy show, especially like Scrubs, tackle that and be like, this is a very real thing. And it's not like Carla's weaker because of it. It's something that happens. It happens to really awesome, amazing women that just the hormones and all the things that are working against them. And it makes it tough for the family. It makes it tough for both the mom and the dad to be like, how can we be together? And how can I help you? You know, and so Turk had to navigate that and be a different kind of husband than he was before with her. And I thought that was a really poignant thing that they did.
Yeah. Another good Kurt and Carla moment is when she meets him on the roof with a big pack of wings and is like, I got you wings and blue cheese dressing or something like that. And he's like, I love this woman.
And I like to how supportive she was when they found out Turk had diabetes and all the stuff that she did to kind of also police him a little bit, but also to do it out of love, you know?
Yeah. If we're going along the lines of like the couple that's been stable through the whole time, I gotta go to one of my favorite couples, Frank and Marie from.
Oh, I was 100% expecting you to go into Lillian Marshall.
Oh, they're on my alternate list, as in like we could talk about them if we bring them in. We can talk about them too, but can we stop at Frank and Marie for a second?
We can, because I have Ray and Deborah.
Ray and Deborah are good too, but Frank and Marie are just hilarious. In fact, like in so many ways, they're so mean to each other all the time. But they still, and part of it is just they're from that generation, you know, married in the 50s. And it's like, well, this is my wife. Like, who cares if I don't like her? Like, this is my wife. That's all we're going to do. And, like, they play it tough, but you see moments that they actually do care about each other, even if they're not going to admit it. Like this one episode where Marie had been going over to Ray's house to babysit late at night all the time. And she was over there with the kids. And all of a sudden, Frank comes over and is like, I just can't sleep without you next to me. And he, like... So it's like, yeah, even at 60 or whatever his name is, he still feels that where he can't fall asleep without his wife. And you know he wouldn't have admitted that.
Or the other side of that, talking about sleeping together, is when they find out how many times Frank and Marie have sex in any given week.
Yeah. Well, first Marie says like once a year, and Frank says twice a week. And like at first they're like, oh, of course Frank's lying. It's like, no, Marie was lying. And she was like ashamed of having sex with her husband. And she was like, well, he's very competent. And
and I just don't want to be known as the whore of Lindsbrook or whatever. And he's like, well, we can move from Lindsbrook.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had one. Oh, there was one. Now, this is a very subtle thing that just shows the relationship. So shortly after Amy and Robert get married, they come back from their honeymoon, and Marie's there, and this is like the first big test of Amy, and like, can Marie control Amy? Because there's these thank you notes that Marie wants Amy and Robert to write for their wedding gifts that they got, and she's like, can you send these out right away? Especially this one to Lee and Stan. I want you to thank them for this gift that they gave you. And Amy's like, we just got back. I don't need to do this right away. And then she kind of fights back, and it's like, this could blow up in this giant thing. And so Deborah's like, I've been waiting for you, Amy. You can help change the balance of everything where Marie's in control. You can help shift all of this. And so it's like, they're like planning this coup and all this stuff. And then Ray and Robert are like standing in the back, like terrified, because they know that anyone who fights their mom is gonna, like, they're going down.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ray runs off to warn Frank, and like, I don't remember exactly why he goes over there, but to be backing up in the episode, one of the gifts that Robert gave when they come back, because they gave gifts to people, they gave Frank like this shrapnel that they found at this one spot, and they're able to buy from some sort of war. So he really loved this gift, and for some reason, like, I think it was Marie, when she was mad, rejected the gifts because they were not going to write the thank you notes, and they storm off. So Ray goes there, he's talking to Frank, and he's telling him everything. Frank's just in the kitchen by himself, and he's like, what are we going to do? And like, laid out that they're gonna betray Marie, and then Marie comes out from like behind the corner or whatever. It's like, well, let me tell you what we're gonna do. And Marie's like, what? Did you know she was there the whole time? And Frank's like, yeah. And he's like, well, why didn't you say anything? I wanted my shrapnel. Like, that moment itself is so small, but it's like, he's not going against her. That's his wife. Like, he's not going to involve himself in all of this minutia of this coup against her. He's there.
Yeah, if he fights against her, he's going to have to get up off his chair.
Yeah. He doesn't get involved. He's like, this is just your guys' thing. I'm not taking a side against Marie. But the reason why I had Ray and Deborah on my list is because I feel like they're such a real couple. They definitely are like, they play up those tropes of the guy versus the girl in a relationship, and Ray, like, all the dumb stuff that guys tend to do in relationships and how they mess things up and like all this sort of stuff, but then all the stuff that women expect and that guys are like, why do you expect this and why do you do that? All of those communication things and all that stuff, each episode they have something about that, like that breakdown. Mm-hmm. There's constantly things that it's like, this is so relatable, and that's why I include their relationship, is because they have their sweet moments, and you have those like there's a reason why they're married, there's a reason why they're still together, and they still are best friends, they still are in love. Mm-hmm. But they absolutely have their marriage problems, as every single marriage does, and mm-hmm. those problems are super relatable, so I had to include them.
Well, one of those things I think involves both Frank and Ray and Robert. One of the best episodes is like when they're bugging the guys to all go get therapy. And so Frank and Ray and Robert decide, we're just going to go to the racetrack and gamble. And then we're just going to meet at lunch and decide what we're going to tell the girls we talked about at therapy. So basically they're just going to gamble and then faking therapy. But then through their faking therapy, they actually end up accidentally working through some of their issues. And it's just like, it worked by accident. And in the end, they get busted because turns out the therapist they said they were seeing died halfway through their sessions.
I don't remember. I remember that episode vaguely. I don't remember all the ins and outs of it. But
it ended with the girls making the guys do a group hug with the three of them. And Ray's like, can we stop? Smells from my childhood are coming back.
Oh, there's some great episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond. I feel like that's an underappreciated sitcom.
It is. It's a very good one. I got to jump from Ray and Deborah. So you talked about Ray and Deborah. I'm going to jump into Corey and Topanga from Boy Meets World.
Nice.
So I will save my big complaint for afterwards. So there's one very bad moment and a lot of good ones. So I like this couple because starting from the beginning when they're like the little junior high kids, like, I don't like girls, and like she's weird, and then jumping to, you see pretty early on, like, this is going to be the couple. Like, they clearly care about each other. They love each other. Like, Corey is clearly obsessed with Topanga, not in a creepy way. Well, sometimes in a creepy way, but usually not in a creepy way.
Yeah, more of an awkward way. Because, I mean, teenage boys and preteen boys, they can be really stupid in how they pursue women.
Yeah. you never, kind of like we were saying earlier, you never wonder whether or not Corey and Topanga are going to end up together. You know they're going to end up together, and like
Even
that's like,
even in the arcs where they're like, oh, they're gonna break up, or something's going on with them,
oh yeah,
they're coming back together.
yeah. Oh, hold on to that thought too, but and like they can be so opposite in so many ways. Like Corey's like kind of underachieving and just kind of loves to goof around, hang out with Sean, whereas Topanga is very much like, I know all the answers, I get straight A's, but they still work. I don't really get the sense that Corey is like completely out of his league. I don't know. It just, and for a lot of people our age, Corey and Topanga was like the ultimate couple goals. Like people saying, I want to be like Corey and Topanga, and different things like when Corey convinced Topanga to go on a plane when she was scared of it, or like the big moments when she came back from Philadelphia or from Pittsburgh. Like you can just tell like they're drawn to each other.
Yeah.
But I can forgive a lot of Boy Meets World's continuity errors because this show just treats continuity like it doesn't exist. First of all, in 6 years, they go from 6th grade to graduating college. And
they're all really smart.
Yeah. And then Mr. Turner is one episode, he's in the hospital about to die, and then they never mention him ever again. He comes back in Girl Meets World. Turns out he's fine.
And he was also Sean's guardian at the time.
Yeah.
So Sean's guardian is in the hospital, and then nothing. We don't say, what happened? Who's taking care of Sean? How is he alive?
Yeah. Oh, and have Corey and Topanga been together since 6th grade, since high school, since they were 2? Who knows? But, okay, I pulled up the transcript of an episode. I tracked it down.
Oh, no.
Season 7, the last season. They're married at this point, and it's the episode where Topanga gets a job, and then Corey's feeling bad because she's all more successful than him.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Topanga says, "This is our first fight." And Corey says, "Ever." No, it is not. You guys have fought constantly for 7 years on this show. You spent almost all of season 5 broken up because he kissed the girl at the ski lodge. But no, this is their first fight. That's where I draw the line. You can't just pretend like you've never fought.
Maybe it's just a character error and not a continuity error.
But they both agree. This is their first fight.
Maybe they're romanticizing their relationship in the middle of it. I don't know. Maybe that's why I didn't have them on my list. But you know who I did have on my list? Another Savage brother. And that is Kevin and Winnie from The Wonder Years. Now, it's been a while since I've watched The Wonder Years. I'm going to admit to that because there's a lot I can't remember so much. I do remember watching it, and the reason why Topanga and Corey are such a successful couple and why that show is so watchable is because everyone has those crushes. Everyone has that first relationship. Sometimes people have that where it's like really early on, where it's in middle school before you even really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you interpret some girl showing you kindness to actually be, oh, she's in love with me, and then you guys get in head over heels faster than any normal people should, and then you realize like, oh, this doesn't really work. We don't know what we're doing. And you see that in the Wonder Years. You see these guys as like his relationship with Winnie is so over imagined, and you can see in his head because there's a narrator going. And by the way, if you don't remember this and you don't know this, the narrator of Wonder Years is Daniel Stern, which is Harry from Home Alone and Home Alone 2.
I didn't know that.
Maybe it's Marv. I think it's Marv, the tall one. I can't remember. Not Joe Pesci. It's the tall guy.
Well, for once, you could be mad at me for never seeing a show. I've never seen The Wonder Years. Wonder
Years is really good. It's definitely like we wouldn't have Boy Meets World without The Wonder Years.
Yeah.
And so it's such a sweet show, and it's one of the common threads for me in a couple of these couples is relatability, and so. The finale of The Wonder Years, I believe, because I kind of looked this up a little bit ahead of time, that it ended up, they kind of have this line where it's like, unfortunately, things don't always work out the way that you plan. Sort of like hinting that, these two, you kind of had this feeling they were going to end up together and that, everything was going to be sunshine and roses, but that's not how life works. You don't always end up with your first love, and sometimes that's great and sometimes that's sad. And in this case, it was just a bittersweet, like, okay, well, she was an important part of his life, but in the end, he didn't end up with her.
I'm going to take a detour. I'm going to talk about, not detour, I'm going to talk about April and Andy from Parks and Rec. I was debating between Ben and Leslie or April and Andy.
Both great relationships.
Yeah.
Or Jerry and Gail.
Yeah. I love Ben's obsession with, like, how are they together?
That it's hilarious. I love that they wrote it that way. And like when in the finale, when he's so old, like his wife is still looking the same exact age.
Yeah. But one thing that's really creative, looking back, we've talked before how Parks and Rec kind of got off on a rough start, and I think they were trying too hard to replicate The Office. And so, like we said earlier, they were trying to make Mark, who they got rid of later on, they were trying to make Mark the Jim and the Pam, which is ironic because that's Rashida Jones, who was also on The Office. And in that scenario, Andy, played by Chris Pratt, was like the Roy. He was like the ex-boyfriend who's kind of in the way of the Jim and Pam. But they managed to, unlike on The Office, turn the Roy, or Andy, into a lovable character with his own interests and just drop the fact of him and Anne ever being together. To the point where towards the end, Andy's like, wait a minute. Oh yeah, I forgot we used to date.
and I feel like that's like 85% Chris Pratt. The turnaround of his character, like the first season Chris Pratt, Andy character is a lot smarter, but also a lot jerkier. Like he wasn't supposed to be like this lovable doof. He was supposed to be pretty much an a-hole.
Yeah, and the episode that really cements it with April and Andy, before they even really get together, it's the hunting episode where everybody else is off hunting, which that's a funny episode on its own. But April and Andy are back together, or back at the office. It starts out with she had gotten a assignment from Leslie to wait till read a number off the phone for some work thing, and then she ended up just bonding with Andy, and like you can see them goofing around and having fun, and like you can see throughout the episode they're starting to like each other, they're starting to get into each other, and you can see it'll be a while before Andy's completely over Anne, but it's starting here. He's starting to realize, well, maybe I don't need to be chasing Anne. Maybe it's fine with April. And they're so opposites attract in certain ways. Like I've heard it described that Andy and April is like a dog marrying a cat, but it works.
Yeah.
Like,
I love their relationship. They're so fun, and you know you could probably even set them on the opposites attract, apart from them both being very immature. Like that's kind of their biggest connection point. But like, what was it? I think it was a Halloween episode that they're doing like an interview with the camera that really highlighted their difference. Where you know, she's like, all like, this party is going to be so terrible and terrifying. And then Andy's like, but it's going to be great. And so like, she's being, someone's going to die. And he's like, of fun.
Yeah. When, like you said, the immaturity, like when Ben moves in with them, they realize they don't have any furniture. The house is a mess. They're sharing a plate of turkey chili, or should I say a Frisbee of turkey chili with one fork.
Yeah. I have to move into, speaking of like immaturity, but like such a fun I love Nick and Jess from New Girl.
Yep, that's on my list. Yep.
New Girl's another one of those shows that I feel like is underappreciated, but now I'm hearing more and more, like as people are finding it on either Netflix or whatever service it's on.
It's on
people
Netflix,
are stumbling across that, and they're like, "Oh, this is actually really funny." Like, yeah, it's funny. This is a great show, and Nick is like. All of the guys in that show are top notch.
Oh yeah.
Jess and Cece are pretty good too. Like pretty much every lead is really good, but the guys take the cake a bit more than the girls. They have killer lines. It slays me. And Nick is so good. Jake Johnson is so in that role and does such a great job with lines that are. There's one soft opening that I absolutely love before talking about the relationship. That Jess gets to be principal or whatever, and she's announcing it to them at breakfast, and then she says something like, Nick makes a joke or whatever, like, Nick Miller, you have to go to the principal's office. Jess obviously kidding, and Nick's like, what? I didn't do anything. no, I didn't do anything. And like he starts freaking out, just like how a teenager sounds when you when if you're a substitute teacher or teacher, you sound in the office. That is exactly, he took that energy and put it right into that couple lines. He's so great.
Angry Nick is always funny.
Flustered Nick is equally as wonderful.
Yeah. See, Nick and Jack, they can both be similar in the fact like they're terrible liars and they get flustered, but they're just so different. Like they've called Nick's room like the white whale of cleaning because he just has terrible hygiene, terrible cleaning, whereas Jess is like everything's organized and I got all my craft supplies. But I don't know, they really work as a couple too.
Yeah. They're a couple that the biggest thing that stands in their way is themselves. And not the other person, it's them specifically. Yeah. And so Nick, you know, he actively sabotages without realizing it his relationships. And Jess kind of does that too. And they keep like messing it up throughout their whole season. And I mean, you know that they're gonna, it's again that will they won't they type relationship, and you know that they're going to, but they definitely get together and break up so much. But this is one of those shows where it doesn't, I don't feel like I ever got tired of the drama in it, where some of them are like, okay, like one on my list is Ross and Rachel. I feel like you have to talk about them when you talk about couples.
Yeah, Chandler and Monica.
Their will they, won't they, to me, got tiresome.
Yeah.
Friends, like fanatics, don't kill me. I'm just a messenger here. But I felt like Nick and Jess, the writers knew when to put them together and when to cut the brakes on them. And they did it really well so that you never really got bored of their relationship.
Yeah. My favorite Nick and Jess moment is actually when they weren't together. I forget the whole story, but Jess was dating somebody else, and she didn't want him to know that she and Nick had dated. So she's like, Nick, be gay, pretend you're gay. And all of a sudden Nick comes in, he's like, yeah, a lot of people call me gay Nick. And he's like, I just love hot guys bod. And he's completely and the guy is about to just call him out. You're clearly just acting. And then Schmidt comes in, clearly pissed off and like emotional at Nick, saying like, oh, why didn't you tell me where you're going to be? And like hugs him and like, if you didn't know any better, you would think this is a gay couple having a squabble. And he came in at the perfect time. And he's like, the guy's like, oh, I guess he is gay, Nick.
I don't know why I like it so much, why it worked to me, but the joke that they had about Schmidt being so upset he was the only one who hadn't seen Nick naked. Oh, yeah. That was early on in season, and he kept trying to sneak a look because he just felt left out. I just found that so funny. And so when he's asking about Nick, how big is it? And then he starts doing where he holds his hand to his thigh to be like, is it this long? He's like, tell me when to stop when I get there. And he keeps going, and Nick just doesn't answer because he's not going to entertain that. But as Smitch is going down the leg, he's like, Nick, really? Nick, really? And he keeps getting longer and longer, and so he's like, wait, what? Nick?
Yeah,
I thought that was funny.
Speaking of New Girl couples, you know what episode I watched just yesterday?
What?
The one where Jess and Robbie were dating, and then they realized that they're third cousins.
I love that the show is so aware that would know that couple shouldn't work at all.
Yeah. So
they made it not work, but they did it in a hilarious way.
Yeah. Definitely. So you had Nick and Jess. Like I said, I'm gonna jump over Ross and Rachel and land on the better couple, Chandler and Monica.
Oh, the engagement episode is so sweet.
Yeah,
that's such a good episode.
Well, Chandler and Monica too. They don't get together till about halfway through the series, but yeah. I don't know. I think they fit better as a couple, and I think they kind of reminded me a little bit of the Turk and Carla vibes. Once they get together, they're not going to break up.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I've actually thought that me and Anna are a lot like Chandler and Monica, except that Anna's a more likable character than Monica.
Yeah, I don't like Monica as the character, but it's she got so much better because of the relationship with her and Chandler. Them being able to feed off of each other worked really, really well. It's one of those couples that's why weren't you doing this since the beginning? Once they got together, it had the best arc to me that Friends ever had. The whole, they don't know that we know that they know, all of those things of trying to keep it a secret, that probably they kept that going for probably about like 10 episodes if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And it was really, really funny. Like all along the way of all of this keeping it a secret sort of stuff, and the strain it put on Joey, and like his, oh, I'm Joey, I'm disgusting, having to cover for them, or like it comes to a head in a really, really hilarious episode when like Phoebe and Rachel find out.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
one of the best.
That might be my favorite episode of Friends, is that one.
Another one that would be up there would be the Thanksgiving one where Monica and Ross's parents find out that they're together, and it just comes out when everyone's yelling out their secrets, and Ross is, Chandler and Monica are living together. And then Judy, their mom's like, that's a lot of information to get in 30 seconds, because like everybody
I love Jacques Cousteau!
I wasn't supposed to put beef in the trifle.
Custard, good. Beef, good.
Jam, good.
Friends is a great show, and the Monica Chandler relationship is so funny. I know that heart of the will they, won't they, and all the drama is on Ross and Rachel, which is why you kind of have to talk about them. But another will they, won't they that I'm glad they turned into will they early on was Jim and Pam. That's another couple. Yeah. It's like you can't talk about TV couples without talking about Ross and Rachel. You can't talk about TV couples without talking about Jim and Pam. Jim and Pam is probably my favorite TV couple relationship. It's just they over romanticize the relationship so much so that even when they kind of start to bring it back down to reality and they give them flaws, it really sucks, because it's like I don't mind that they're this idealistic couple, that they're like this is what everyone wants to shoot for. You can have that as characters. You don't have to always be realistic.
Yeah. Well, the reason that Jim and Pam, and I haven't brought it up yet, and obviously we were going to have to at least mention them in passing, is Jim and Pam, their storyline as a couple was really only super interesting in about the first 4 seasons, because what really made them interesting was, like we said, we kind of knew they were going to end up together, but like what's going on? Like Pam's with Roy, and then Jim's with Karen, and they flirted with each other, and looks like Pam likes Jim. Oh, but Jim's not responding, and kind of following that was really interesting. Mm-hmm. And when they got together, they're still interesting as characters, and I feel like Jim still has great moments with Michael and Dwight and stuff. But as far as Jim and Pam's relationship, it's like it's Jim and Pam. They're together. That's it.
Yeah.
And so
they peaked at their wedding episode, and then after that, their specific relationship together got boring. And it was like, oh, then they're pregnant. Oh, that's really sweet. That's great. And then you didn't care as much after that again. And then the final, and we talked about like the final season 2 of like we need to give them drama. It's like, but you didn't really.
Did you know the scene where they're in the hospital and they find out they're pregnant? That was filmed in the Scrubs hospital set.
No way.
Yeah, if you go back, you look at it, you can definitely tell.
In my mind, I can think of it very vividly, and in my mind, I'm starting to superimpose it. That's so funny.
Let's see, do you have anyone else on your list that we haven't mentioned?
I fired all my guns.
I got a couple that I'll just fire off pretty quickly. Okay. Another fun one is Jake and Amy on not Parks and Rec. Another Michael Schur show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah,
and they did. I think they did a little bit of Will They Won't They at the beginning, but they kind of like Jim and Pam. They established it early on, and like one of the greatest moments of there is during the episode where Terry is going through all the stuff about being racially profiled and all of that. As with the series episode, it always cuts back to Jake and Amy babysitting his daughters and getting into more awkward conversations. Like they end up having to like explain racial profiling and like, you might be treated differently than you're black. Why is that? And then they end up accidentally like having to teach them about sex. And it's just like, they end up telling Terry like, yeah, we actually told your daughters about this. All right, bye. Just like their dry run, and they end up calling everybody that they can know about advice, and they still, it's just panic parents. Like that's a cool couple moment for them, I think. Funny couple moment.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine does a really good job with relationships in general, just of knowing, like they knew their characters right away, and they knew their characters so well that they stopped. Like for instance, there was supposed to be a Boyle and Rosa kind of flirtatious relationship right away. You see that a little bit boils into Rosa, and they realized, because they knew their characters, they realized that this didn't work for the characters. So they took that relationship out and they put an end to it really early on, to the point that now, if like me even bringing that up, you guys might be like, oh yeah, that's right, they did do that. Like they completely just ditched it and forgot about it.
I kind of wish they had gone longer with the Boyle Gina thing. That was funny.
Yeah, see, now that is a good relationship, because they shouldn't be in a relationship, but they definitely, those personalities clashed in a really funny way.
I got one more that I'll mention in about 10 seconds, and it'll really show how nerdy I am. But I always liked Lizzie and Gordo on Lizzie McGuire. And I loved the moment that they finally kissed at the end of the Lizzie McGuire movie. It's a good relationship, and I think it ended well.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie. I was a fan of the show. I watched it. No shame here. So
was a 20-year-old Disney Channel show. It wouldn't be a shame.
Yeah, that's true. I was a child at the time, so
true. I
was the key demographic.
All right. Well, if we fired all our barrels, I think. Oh, go on.
One that I just thought of that we don't talk about this show too much. Once Upon a Time is a pretty good show. It really got stale as it went on. It's one of those shows that should have ended about 3 seasons earlier than it did.
Yeah.
But it was pretty intriguing for a while. They had a really good relationship between Snow White and Prince Charming. And that couple is actually married in real life. And so, you could really feel that charisma coming across. But they were the heart of the show. I felt like the main, I can't even remember what her name is, but the main character, she was kind of bland, except for these two, like any emotional heart was really good with these. The show succeeded because of their emotional connection and because the two villains of Regina and Rumpelstiltskin were really good. Like, those two things were key.
It sounds good. I've actually never seen Once Upon a Time either, so.
I'd say even with, like, I know you're the type that you're like me, that once you start a show, you have to finish it.
Yeah.
It's worth the 2.5 seasons or so that you slog through at the end.
Okay.
For the beginning. I felt like the beginning really was strong.
All right. Should we jump into trivia? You got anything else?
All right. Let's go.
All right. So I was going to say earlier, I won't talk about Power Rangers, except I have to, because that's what last week's trivia was about. The question was, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, one of them was named after an actor from one of the shows we talked about last week. The answer was Bryan Cranston from both Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad. The original Blue Ranger, Billy, his name is Billy Cranston. The Cranston came from Bryan Cranston. He was a friend of the producers. And actually, Bryan Cranston did some voice of some of the early monsters in Power Rangers way back in the day. And then when they did the reboot movie in 2017, he played Zordon. So there you go.
He was Zordon in the movie?
Yeah.
I never saw the movie. Was it good?
It was okay. I think it wasn't great, but I would have loved to see the sequel that they were going to make and they didn't make because it didn't do as well.
Real quick, do you watch Cobra Kai?
I don't yet. I think once I finish Chuck, that might be the next one, because both you and Paul have been telling me to watch it.
The teens on that show, it feels like if you pull these characters out of that show, you've got the Power Rangers. They're that type of characters. So you talked about you weren't going to mention Power Rangers. I wasn't going to mention Chuck this episode, but I wanted to give a shout out that all of our discussion about Chuck over the last couple of weeks has gotten Dan, your brother-in-law, I don't know, brother-in-law by marriage. I don't know. Somehow related to you. He's got him to start watching that.
Dan is Matt's, it's Matt's wife's cousin's husband's sister's husband's brother.
And what does that make us? Absolutely nothing.
All right, this week's trivia. So 3 of the shows we've mentioned are all created by Michael Schur: Parks and Recreation, The Good Place, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I can think of 2 actors who have had recurring roles on all 3 of those shows. So what 2 actors, and if there's more than 2 that I'm not thinking, if I'm forgetting one, then maybe there's more, but what 2 actors were on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the Parks and Recreation, and The Good Place?
And it's not Rashida Jones. She wasn't on The Good Place.
Was she on Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Oh, you know what? I superimposed The Office over Brooklyn Nine-Nine for some reason in my mind just then.
Yeah. There's a
So,
lot of overlap with these shows, especially if you include The Office, because there's a lot of
yeah.
people over there.
Yeah, I mean, you watch like a lot of TV that's connected, and you're going to see people pop up from one show to another. You're like, oh, hey, you were this guy, and you were that. Like, Matt, I think his name's Matt Walsh, but there's like an actor he's like in every, Matt Walsh. Look up his name,
I think
and you'll
I
be
know
like,
him.
oh, I've seen him from like 5,000 different shows.
Redhead mustache guy, right?
Yes.
He was the racist guy on Community who had the trampoline.
Yes, you're right. Yep. Joshua on that
Yep.
one. But I'm sure he's been in all three of those shows, but not a recurring character. I think he was like a one-off on all three of those shows.
I can't think
But,
of him
I mean,
in Parks and Rec, but
I don't know for sure. I just know he's in like everything. So there's some actors that are like, what, can you stop getting work, please? You're in every single thing that I watch.
I know. It's like I was watching Chuck and I was like, wait, Chevy Chase is in this?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Except for his character, it only lasted a couple episodes. I like Scott Bakula, though. I was so glad to see him again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, next week. Okay, we cut this out from last week because we were going to do that this week, but we're like, wait a second. It's Valentine's Day. Let's talk about couples. We are at the behest of your brother-in-law. Now, that's an easier relationship. Your brother-in-law, Paul, we are going to talk about TV shows that jump the shark because there's a couple of them, and I think I even brought up a few of them that I would talk about today. Ones that started off strong, and then by the end of the show, you're like, what the heck am I watching anymore? So
Yeah, I'll tell you my criteria. It doesn't necessarily have to be that it's absolute terrible after that point, but it's if you consider the show as two different shows before and after the jump the shark point, would I rank them drastically differently if I was ranking them separately on my TV show ranking? If I would rank them way differently, I'll count that a jump the shark moment.
yeah, I can think of one that I don't really watch. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of it, but I'm imagining you'd talk about it. All right. Well, anyway, until then, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And you hold your loved one close and tell them you love them. If you don't have a loved one, go find one. It's Valentine's Day. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Till
Hey,
then,
Matt, would you believe that after 7 years of marriage and 2 years of dating, Ann and I just had our first fight ever today?
no, I wouldn't believe that at all. Not even for a second.
Exactly. I still can't let it go.
Oh my gosh. Well, until then, stay tuned and keep watching.